morning, everyone. Hope you're having a good morning. It's just me today. It was supposed to be me and my co-founder, but she's unfortunately unwell. So, as mentioned, I'm Amir from Shellworks. And at Shellworks, we're a material science and packaging company that is building solutions for a pollution-free future. So this is the little title that probably got you guys to come here. Recycled plastic is not fantastic. And this story really starts with a 5 by 5 centimeter cube. And I guess you're wondering, why does it start with this 5 by 5 centimeter square? Well, basically, recycling facilities have this limitation. So anything smaller than 5 by 5 centimeters that ends up in a recycling facility will fundamentally not be recycled. The grates internationally are this size, and anything that's smaller will fall through. You're probably thinking, what is 5 centimeters? 5 centimeters is the size of an AA battery. So you might have noticed that when you get caps on drinks now, they're attached. Quite an annoying thing. And as I saw this morning on the tube, people just rip them off. But caps happen to be less than 5 centimeters. So do jars. So do tubes, because in one of the orientations, they can fall through that grate. And in fact, so do bottles. So as we can see, already the system is a little bit broken in terms of managing the waste that we send. And we all have separate bins in our homes, in our kitchens. We have one for recycling and we have one for general waste. Sometimes we have a food waste bin if we're lucky enough to live in jurisdiction that does that. But actually, most of us have a singular bin in our bathroom. And I'll give the caveat that at Shellworks, we focus a lot on cosmetics and personal care products, which is why there might be a little bit of a skew towards that in this presentation. And when it comes to cosmetics products, they're actually made of many different types of materials because we want performance from those products. So this is a pipette that everyone knows and uses and loves. Actually happens to be made of 4 different materials. And because those 4 different materials are bonded together, they're really difficult to separate. They cannot be recycled. And even if all of the things ended up in the right place, these are some pretty horrific stats about what we do with our waste when we dispose of it. And as you can see, most things are going to landfill, and a very, very small portion internationally is actually getting recycled. So I guess you're thinking, why not choose a sustainable option? And for a lot of us, when we think about sustainability, we're probably thinking about compromise. We're thinking about those experiences that we've had with sustainable products that have actually been pretty bad. This is a case in point, the paper straw, which we all probably hate, coming apart. And actually, these are from a Reddit forum called Mildly Infuriating. So everyone is suffering with these problems. The irony of this paper straw is that if you look at both of those images, more than 95% of that product is still plastic. It's just the part that we wanted to interact with, which is now not plastic. So it doesn't really make sense. And then if we look at food service again, I've had so many of these experiences, I'm sure you guys have as well, products that just fundamentally don't work. Or the option to basically make everything look like toilet roll. This is supposedly what people think sustainability is everything has to look brown and organic. And then sometimes we get products that are touted to be sustainable. I've covered the brand of who this is, but maybe you know who it is. 2 products that are identical. One of them says that you can recycle it with the cap on proudly, and the other one, bought 2 weeks later, says that you must take the cap off, and touts this little symbol with a sort of black and white circle, 2 arrows pointing into each other, which you guys might think is a recycling symbol, but actually is a symbol that indicates this company has paid because they know that their product is not going to be recycled. So there's a lot of misinformation, and that misinformation also extends to new materials, things like compostability. What does compostability mean in terms of this lid? There is no bin to put it into, and actually this means it needs to be industrially composted, which a lot of places don't have access to. Okay, so what if we just made the waste system a little bit better? Fundamentally, plastic, the design brief of plastic, was never for it to be recycled. This is an article from Life magazine. It was the cover of Life magazine, actually, in 1955. And it proudly announced that plastic was here, and it meant that we could just throw things away. So the design brief for plastic was, we're going to make something which has great performance, and once you're done with it, you can just throw it out. So to be honest, against that brief, plastic has done a fantastic job. But if you read this article, it's kind of a hilarious article. It goes into saying, why would you need to wash plates anymore? Why would you need to do anything? You can just throw this stuff out. But when it comes to plastic, it's actually not just plastic, and this is a really important point. Over the last 50, 60 years, we've taken plastic as a polymer material, and we've added a bunch of toxic chemicals to it. And the reason we've done that is because we want to process it faster, we want to make it stronger, we want to make it cheaper, we want to make it more transparent, more flexible, more stable. And those toxic chemicals that exist in plastic are at threshold limits when they're in virgin material. But as soon as you recycle that product once more, you start to increase the concentration of those toxic chemicals that are inside the product. And if you recycle that product again, you further increase the abundance of those toxic chemicals. But because plastic was never designed to be recycled, no one's thinking about this. They're just thinking about the fact that we need to recycle these products and get them back into the system. So normally we're not a company that tends to focus on doom and gloom, but I thought I would set a little bit of context of what the existing situation is. But 5 years ago, myself and my co-founder in a cold studio in South Kensington, let you guess where that is, we asked ourselves the question, if nature made plastic, what would that be? And it turns out that nature actually does make plastic, and it exists in the cells of naturally occurring microorganisms, and it's how they store fat, so it's how they store their energy in their cells. So these little granules you can see in these cells of these microorganisms, that is a material that behaves exactly like plastic, and I'll show you what we did with it. So at Shellworks, we're a team of scientists, engineers, mechanical engineers, material scientists, operations, creatives, and our team extends beyond the 15 that we are to about 2 billion microorganisms that we collaborate with on a daily basis. And with those microorganisms, we create a material we call Vivamer within the cells of microorganisms. So as you may have seen, these microorganisms that exist abundantly in nature, we grow them up in a fermentation process, much like how you would brew beer. And as they grow, they build up these granules in their cells. And what we do is we extract those granules from their cells, and then that behaves exactly like plastic. So we can manufacture this product at scale in the same way that plastic would be manufactured through injection molding or through blow molding. And we can create products which don't look brown. They look like plastics. They behave like plastics. And when I say they behave like plastics, they're incredibly resistant to both oil, water. If you keep them in your home, they will last as long as you want. But the magic really happens once you're done with the product, and we call it end of life rather than end of use. So when you put this product in a home compost environment, or in fact any non-sterile environment, the same microorganisms that exist in the soil, they recognize the material, they recognize this is a sort of a fat that they had in their cells, and they start to enzymatically cover and start to eat and break down the product. So this is the same product that I just showed you after 4 weeks in a home compost, and then after 16 weeks. So the product basically breaks down completely. It gets consumed by microorganisms and turned back into nutrients, back into its elemental compounds in the soil. And we can create a range of different forms with this. So we can create things like bottles, perfume caps, jars. And these are just examples of products that we could create. And we spend a lot of time creating natural pigments and dyes so that we can give that elevated value and distinction and color to those products as well, again, so that we don't have to have things that look like toilet roll. And we've done this with a number of customers to date. So one of the first customers we launched with was Heckles, is a brand based out of Margate. And we redid all of their packaging across 16 different SKUs, all in our packaging. And for them, it was important because they're a brand that really drives the sustainable agenda. And this was a perfect way for them to not have to compromise on the aesthetic of what they wanted to achieve. Meadens is another company. And we work with them to deliver them exactly the same solution. Eclo is a company based in France. And they used to have to only use solid formulations because they really struggled to find packaging. And they wanted to be plastic-free. And we were able to deliver them a product which met the sort of, high luxury of what they were trying to achieve, but in a way that was sustainable. More recently, we developed a bottle. So this bottle is made of the same materials. We actually use slightly different microorganisms with slightly different feeding strategies, and they can create more flexible materials. And so these were 2 bottles that we created for the daughters of the Illy family. So Illy coffee from Italy. Their daughters basically take the waste from coffee, and then they extract an oil from those beans. And then they used that oil to create an antioxidant formulation. And they needed a bottle to store these in. So we created these bottles for them. And you can't go to Italy without engaging in coffee, especially if you're dealing with Illy. So we created these coffee cups for the event. I have one here. And I thought I would talk about this a little bit because it's a good example of the material. So the material's food contact certified. And in our office, we use this for coffee all the time. It's a great replacement for plastic cups, for example, for kids, because it's not toxic. It doesn't have any microplastics that you're drinking from. And in terms of the stability of the material, this has gone through the dishwasher about 30 times already. And it can keep hot drinks, cold drinks, doesn't stain. So I'll have this with me if you want to have a look. So I talked a little bit about a home composter. And I bet you're thinking, well, hang on a second, what if I don't have a home composter? Well, in fact, the reason we designed Vivamer is we designed it with end of use in mind and the end user in mind. We've spent so long at the bin. I know a lot of people have spent a long time at the bin trying to decide which bin do I put this in, feeling a sense of guilt. And when we talk about home compostability, we use that as a third-party sort of certified process that determines that something will break down in ambient conditions without the need of sort of elevated temperatures. But we go really deep into the profile of the material. So by choosing Vivamer, what we say is you can dispose of the product responsibly wherever you want to. And the reason we can say that is because we've tested to see that there are no microplastics, there's no toxins, it's completely petrochemical free, we have no chemical additives, it's home compostable certified, it's industrially compostibly certified. We've tested it to assess whether it will break down in landfill, and it breaks down at a similar rate to cellulose. When it gets incinerated, there's no volatile organic compounds released, and it's non-persistent in natural environments. And what I mean by that is, if it ends up fugitive in the environment, it will still break down. It will take a longer period of time, but it will still break down, and it'll still break down into those natural components. So at Shellworks, as I mentioned, what we want to do is really take the onus away from consumers by working with brands to deliver a product which is uncompromisingly sustainable. And what we mean by that is you don't have to compromise on the aesthetics, on the performance, on the functionality of the product. You don't have to tell users you need to take this apart and peel this off and separate this and put this in a different bin. Fundamentally, Vivamer behaves just like plastic, but it doesn't have microplastics, toxins, or generate waste. So what I wanted to share with you today is uncompromising sustainability is here, and what you guys choose to do with it is up to you. We're always open to engaging people, whether it's just because you want to have a marketing story or whether it's because you actually care about sustainability. Those two things are sort of merging together because consumers are starting to really care. And we just wanted to share this to say, come join us in thinking outside the box. And come and collaborate with nature, because nature's been doing this stuff for billions of years. And nature is telling us, hey, look, you like plastic. Here is a plastic that is made by nature. Thank you.
Amazing, Amir. We've got some time, so I know that probably provoked a lot of thoughts in the audience. I wonder, are there any questions for Amir that we can grab from anyone? Yes, question here. I might have to repeat it if we don't have a roaming, but you can say it and then I'll repeat it. Oh, you got a mic there. Perfect. Perfect.
Hello. So I am actually in supply chain, so I'm extremely interested about the capability of this material to be used at high volume production. For example, bottle pros, yeah, to do any sort of bottle in food industry.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, so a question about scale, but also particularly around industry.
So the process happens through fermentation, and what that means is we take microorganisms, we put them in a fermentation process, and within basically 24 to 48 hours, 90% of their cell weight is material. What that means in terms of scale is we're actually not limited by scale of material. So currently, last year we shipped around 50 tons of material in form of product. This year we're shipping around 2 million to 3 million products. And our limitation right now is purely on the tooling capacity side. So if someone came to us and said, hey, look, I want 15 million, 20 million products, that's not something that is a problem for us. We've built the product to integrate into existing manufacturing lines. So scalability is not an issue.
Okay, brilliant. We've got time for maybe one more question. Are there any? I've got a question, Amir, about the future of Shellworks. You talked about, what you've done to develop. What does the rest of 2024 look like for you at Shellworks?
Yeah, I can talk about 2024 and I can talk about a little bit beyond that as well.
Beyond.
So 2024, we have some really exciting launches coming up with some really big names. And you'll see our products in the places like Tesco's, Boots, and also a sort of really big, globally known, well-recognized brand in the cosmetics and beauty space. And it will be with a completely innovative product that I haven't showed you today. So look out for that towards the end of the year. It's a real game changer. And then beyond that, our vision for Shellworks is to basically change the notion of what plastic is. We're creating the new version of plastic that is built with nature, it's built collaboratively with nature, and therefore is designed from day zero to fundamentally work within those systems. And I think, when we think about what we want Shellworks to mean, we think about things like Gore-Tex. When you see Gore-Tex on a product, you understand what it means from a functionality point of view, from a performance point of view. We want people to understand that when you see Shellworks on a product, you understand what it means from a functionality, performance, and sustainable point of view.
Amazing. Super interesting. Thank you. Let's give Amir a round of applause.